Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Family is the Solution, a virtual roundtable to shine a light on the transformative power of family for kids waiting in foster care. My name is Jennifer Pinder. I am the Executive Director of You Gotta Believe. And at You Gotta Believe, our primary focus is to find permanent homes for older kids in foster care. And I was drawn to this work because I strongly believe in that mission. And I really just wanted to join the fight to make sure that happens. And I want to point out how integral parents are to the component of the work that we do. So first, I'd like to ask all of our YGB parents to say hi in the chat, to call you out. And even if you're not a parent, we want to hear from you too. So everybody just say hi, tell us where you're dialing in from. And we're here now because November is Adoption Awareness Month. And that month is especially important to me because I was adopted at birth. And in fact, everyone you'll hear from tonight has been directly connected to adoption in some shape or form. So tonight, we're specifically gathering to talk about family. Families are needed for vulnerable youth in foster care, families that are built through older child adoption, and the extended YGB family that is here to buttress and support parents and youth. We're going to have a live Q&A at the end of the discussion, but feel free to enter your question as you are listening. Throughout this event, there will be opportunities to donate. We are a small nonprofit doing challenging work, and we rely heavily on donations. Feel free to text the word donate to 718-865-2425, and you'll see the number scrolling along the bottom there. Or you can go to our website at yougotabelieve.org and click on the donate button. At the end of our program, I'll share details on how your contributions will help us, as well as other ways to get involved. For those of you who have given in the past, we're just so grateful for you, and we hope you'll give again. So now I'd like to invite my colleague, Amber Williams, to the floor. Amber, go ahead and join us on the stage.
Hi, great to be here.
Great to see you, Amber. Great. So Amber is one of our YGB superstars. She's a former staff member, and now she serves on YGB's incredible board as our vice president. And she's going to be moderating our roundtable tonight. So, both of us are very connected to the mission, and we also have very eerily similar adoption stories. Why don't you share your story and why YGB's mission is so important to you?
Absolutely. So I am also an adoptee, like you're going to hear tonight. So many people connected to YGB are credible messengers. I was born into foster care and I was adopted as a baby. And I know that family forever changed my life. And the importance of family has just been instrumental. One of the things that YGB does is just builds that community of support and family, specifically family support. And we're going to hear tonight about that commitment that YGB shares that is so integral to that everybody deserves and needs family. And we're going to hear wonderful stories tonight about family and that transformative power of family.
Great. Thanks so much, Amber. So, speaking of families and folks who are connected to YGB and adoption, we want to introduce our first guest, Mikey. Mikey, why don't you join us on the stage? Great.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Mikey. So Mikey Darnell, he's a YGB parent. He's a great example of a parent who is super connected to the YGB community. He's a regular at events. I was able to meet Mikey and his son SJ at one of our family picnics recently. And just the love between them is so apparent and obvious and strong. And Mikey is a full participant in the interconnected YGB web of support. So welcome, Mikey.
Thank you guys so much. That was so beautiful.
Sure. You want to give us a little bit of background of how you chose to become a dad?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to be a parent and just didn't know how it was going to happen. And one day I just happened to be scrolling on Instagram and I saw a post that I was following and they were supporting older teens and YGB was there. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And so I just clicked on the guys, Instagram account and I read up and I just reached out and next thing I know, I was in MAP class. So it happened just like that. It was really, really cool and awesome. So, yep.
Fantastic. Mikey, so I know you said you always knew you wanted to be a parent. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like becoming a parent during the pandemic and how YGB helped you and supported you with that?
I was able to take the map classes every Wednesday in Brooklyn. I was super excited. We had a great team. Paul was a great teacher. And I was able to then do the home study. And then as soon as that happened, that's when COVID broke out. And so I thought that everything was, it came to a halt for a couple of months. And then August, I was of 2020, I was able to meet my son SJ, and I was traveling back and forth to Massachusetts. And then he came for his visit, and unlike most people, they don't get to do a 2-week visit, but he got to quarantine with me, and that was super awesome because he got to get a full experience of what life would be like for the two of us. And then 3 weeks later, he moved in November 11th, so we're celebrating a year. But it was kind of tough because to have somebody this close to you was pretty amazing, but at the same time, it was new. I had to learn to be a parent, and he had to learn how to be a son. And so we went through some challenges, but the love got us there. We wanted to, and here we are a year later.
That's fantastic. So is SJ there that we can say a hello?
Definitely, yes, SJ is here. We can say hello. He's coming. Just give him a second.
All right.
He's got to come over and he's going to say hello. He was excited to kind of come on. He was hanging around, being like my tech support. So SJ, would you like to say hello? Come say hi.
Hello.
Hi, SJ.
Hi, SJ.
SJ, I understand that Friday is a big day. Do you want to tell us what Friday is?
Yeah.
What's happening Friday?
On Friday, I'm getting an adoption day.
Yes.
Yay.
How exciting is that?
I think it's very exciting.
We do too. That's great. So, Mikey, I know you talked a little bit about, becoming a parent during the pandemic, and SJ and just having to become a father and a son. Can you talk a little bit about some of the support that you got from YGB? I know you mentioned before that you felt like they walked in your shoes, your family's shoes. What was that like?
Oh, the support was so amazing because I was able to attend the Thursday classes and just to talk with other parents. And I remember when I think my second time attending the Thursday class, Joe Tolles was there. And I was like, wait, this is the guy that they always show the videos. And this is the guy that has like 20 kids and he's amazing. And he looks like me. He's another brown boy. And if he can do it, I can do it. And he was just so regular. He was like, hey, what's up? How you doing? How's this making you feel? And Emily and Martha and everybody was so welcoming, so inviting. And they shared the different steps that I will go through. Sometimes you think you have it all, or you think because you have children in your family, or, I work close with kids and, I kind of thought I can do this, but they let me know this is a different bag and you got to be careful how you open it, go in and get what you need out of it. But they have been extremely supportive and, some of us haven't even met each other. It's just been over Zoom, but you guys, it feels like forever.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Mikey. I know you touched on something that I think is so important about YGB, and that everyone is really a credible messenger. What you'll hear tonight is that the program staff have either experienced foster care or who've been a parent to a child who's experienced foster care. And Mikey talked a lot about the support he received as a parent, but there's youth that also need that network of support as well, especially our older youth. And for those youth, what I like to say is YGB's got a secret sauce, their youth advocate program. That's just an invaluable resource. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about the youth advocate program?
Sure. And I often consider our youth advocates to be the backbone of our organization, because the youth that we work with, they just so often have so many adults telling them what to do. So we've recognized the importance of having folks who are closer in age to the youth that we're working with. Not only close in age, but close to in experience. So our youth advocates are all survivors of the system. So they really understand what these kids have been through, and they can provide this highly specialized support, and they're available to the youth around the clock. And it's just so important. It adds another layer of support that we provide to the youth and to the families. And so we have one of our advocates joining us tonight. Nyamekye Reynolds has been connected to YGB for a very long time, and she's brought so much value to the work that we do and to our team. And she also brings her personal experience and professional wisdom to her role advocating for youth and forging connections with young people. Welcome, Nyamekye.
Hi, hello. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Nyamekye, can you tell us a little bit about your connection to YGB and to foster care?
So, like you've previously mentioned, I am also an adoptee. I went into care when I was a child, and at the age of 4, I was adopted. It wasn't until I came to YGB that I learned about unconditional commitment. That was the first time I was ever asked about someone in my life being unconditionally committed to me, and I didn't know what it meant at first, and I had struggled with trying to pick someone. And then I was like, no, there is this one person, and this guy's name is Mr. Streety. He's an old after-school teacher of mine, and I consider him to be the person who was unconditionally committed to me. And what makes this journey personal for me is that you got to believe it's the first job I ever applied for, that my experience mattered more than my actual credentials. So yeah.
That's great. I remember you mentioning that that it's the only job where being in foster care actually helped you with the position.
It was a requirement.
I'm curious, if you had had an advocate when you were a kid, what do you wish they had done for you that you do for kids now?
Wow. Just provide a safe space for one, like my healing and my trauma, the things that I didn't understand, even if I was at an age where I wouldn't have understood them, just enough of time and patience to say, this is hard. No one ever stops and says, this is hard for the child, because it's very hard for us. And no one stops and says, do you need anything? Are you okay? And no one ever says, can I help you? Everyone is so interested and so stuck on helping the parents, but nobody says, well, what about the kid? What does the child need? So that's what I wish, if I had an advocate, they would do. And I hope with like the youth that I've worked with, I've provided that.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about some of the ways that you support the youth that you work with and the families that you help support?
So mainly it's with the youth than it is the parents, but sometimes the parents do need a listening ear, and it's just important to be that. It's important to listen and say, they say, hey, my kid is doing this, and is there anything I could have done different, or how would you have handled it? So I think that's important, but mainly with the youth, providing that safe space and understanding and meeting them where they are at the time. You don't want to push a youth into something that they're not ready for. You don't want to push your own agendas. So meeting the youth where they are and just being able to say, I'm here if you need anything. That is so important. And I know one particular experience I had, this youth I was working with, she was really into art, and she had a failed placement, and she was just like, I feel like my world is broken. Like everything was ripped away from me. So I said, listen, you're an artist. Let me know what you need. I said, we can paper mache it together to put the pieces back together. We can use tape. We can use glue. You let me know, I'm here. And I was so happy to hear her say, okay. She was just like, okay. She was like, so will you be here? And I was like, I'll be here. And that made all the world of a difference, both to the little girl inside of me who needed it and her at the time.
Yep, that's
So
right.
I was
YGB doesn't quit.
I was so ecstatic for that. She was just like, will you be with me? I was like, every step of the way, every step. Just let me know what you need.
So I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier and you just brought up now about, trauma and healing. One of the things you told me before is that connection really heals trauma. Families help do that. Absolutely. What do you want all YGB parents to know about this?
What I want all of YGB families to know about this is that this is something that's going to take a lot of commitment out of you and a lot of time, but that we have your back. You got to believe it's not just about adoption. We're not just about forcing connections. We're not about forcing anything. We want you guys to understand that like the youth matter, and that family is what connects us. Connections is what helps the families, and the families is what help the kids. So when we are healing when we're healing trauma that we've experienced, family is important, and YGB is going to support that family so that family could support that youth, and we can have the best outcome possible.
That is beautifully said. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you talked a lot about connection and healing and how that happens in a family. And as families go through that support process, YGB really specializes in that. I want to bring on Martha, who's one of YGB's case planners and a family therapist, to talk a little bit more about that. Hi, Martha. Martha, so I know that you are at YGB, and like everyone else there, you are a credible messenger. And I know one of the things in your story is you are a mom. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a parent?
Yes. So my wife and I adopted our 2 children after a lengthy care time that they had in foster care. So I stayed at home for a while, and I didn't have very much support in my journey as a foster parent. I felt pretty isolated, and I didn't have, the friends that I had. No one was doing what we were doing. No one was working within the foster care system. There weren't even any people necessarily adopting, and it was just a very challenging time. And even though I'm a licensed mental health counselor, sometimes there's nobody worse than the counselors and the therapists, because we think we know what we need to know. And we walk into this parenting thing like, okay, let's go. I know all the answers. And it's not what you know in here. It's how you feel here and what happens through your parenting journey. And so it was pretty isolating for me.
Yeah, so in some ways, maybe it's fair to say that you are the case planner that you never had.
Yes, ma'am. I was. In fact, Mary Keene said that to me. She said, "Hey, don't you want to come back to work?" And I said, "Yes, I really do." And that, from the moment my feet hit the ground, that's exactly what I've been able to do. I've never worked in a place that said, "Hey, go, be this connection for people, do this with them," and then actually pave the way to be able to do it.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about how you approach planning for families and how you feel YGB does that a little bit differently from other places and from your experience.
So the first thing that we do is get to know families really well. And the other piece is that they get to know me well also. So they know who my kids are. When their kids are doing something, usually I can say, yeah, that was Tuesday. that was happening in our house yesterday. And so when we're planning for them, part of the planning is letting them know that the world has high expectations of parents always, right? Everybody's always writing all this stuff and posting on their Instagram and their Facebook about how beautiful their family is, and nobody's posting the challenges. And I think that it gives us a really weird idea of what parenting is supposed to look like. And so when a child comes into your home and they have had a lot of broken connections and a lot of broken attachments, the first thing that they're going to need is somebody who's willing to connect, bond, and attach with them. So as a case planner, that's what I'm doing with them. I am connecting with them. I am attaching with them. I am bonding with them. Whatever way I can see that they need. If they're serious people, okay, I can be serious. If they're silly, I can surely be silly. But if I want them to connect and bond and attach to a child, I want them to feel what that is like to be connected and attached to another person that's new to them.
That's great. And that community of support that you talk about, I think is just so integral and just sets YGB apart and makes it different. I want to turn it back to you, Mikey, just very quickly to talk a little bit more about how YGB supports family and some of the unique things that go on. I know before you talked about things like parent hour and game night. We've talked about the advocates and just that broader community. Tell us a little bit about some of those experiences that are unique, and some of those things you participated in, especially during the pandemic.
I mean, when you're thinking about, I love the support. And Martha actually we actually had a one-on-one when you're thinking about how do you fit the biological family into your new family? You know, can they go where you go? How do, you make it comfortable for the child to love everybody and to understand, what adoption is and come into a new family. So those are the great moments and the great support that you experience. If you're having one of those days where, you just want to punch a hole in the wall, you have somebody to call. And then you have beautiful people like Nyamekye and the other advocates who, as she mentioned before, they've gone through it. So you don't have to go through it alone. And that made it extremely important because it was all new to parents like myself and other people. And you just don't have to go at it alone. And that's what makes it so great. And that everybody is willing to get on board and to do whatever it takes to get you to where you need to be. So again, the unconditional and the pledge to do it forever is also the pledge that they've given me to say, hey, no matter even when he's adopted, we're still going to be here because there's different stages. He's going to turn into a teen and a adolescent youth and everything like that. So I'm going to be here for those moments as well. So that really makes me feel like I was in great hands.
That's right. You're part of the YGB community now. So, we need more great parents like Mikey. And if you're watching and you're thinking about being a parent, please reach out. And if you want to support parents like Mikey and help YGB connect and support more families like Mikey and SJ, you can make a donation. Don't hesitate. Every dollar counts. And I think we've actually got some great donations coming in now. We've got $500 from Maria in Long Island. Shout out. We've got $25 from Adam in Philadelphia. We've got 10 from Jessica in Brooklyn. Everything helps us just build those family connections and that community of support. So I want to turn it over and take a few questions from folks. If you're submitting your questions, make sure to leave your email address because if we don't get to them, we definitely will email you and make sure we get back. So we'll look here and see if we have any questions coming in from the audience. While we're waiting for some questions to come in, Martha, you want to talk a little bit about some of the family support, the parent hour and things like that, that have been so instrumental in that family support.
Yeah, I mean, especially during the pandemic, what we realized right away is that I will start when I start case planning with a family is that I will go to see them once a week. And I'll do that for a couple of months and see how things are going. And then we might see them less. But when the pandemic started, we couldn't even go into anybody's home. And going in via Zoom is kind of okay. But we immediately, but Emily and I were like, we need to do, so we were doing a lunchtime group. We still are doing the parent hour in the evenings on Thursday, and once a month there's a parent support group, and that's a little bit, it's a 2-hour group, and parents just come together, and it's a great place. All of those groups were a great place. People would sit in front of their cameras and say, I am really going to lose my mind, and every single person on the call, first of all, the first thing that would happen is they say, oh my God, yes, that was me yesterday. And I think that when everybody understands where you're coming from, that level of the feeling of feeling just normal, like, oh, these feelings are normal. This makes sense. It brings the level of your nervous system down. It makes you feel more relaxed if you feel connected. And that connection is really important.
So you mentioned just being normal. We have a question from the audience from Jessica in Philadelphia. What are some of the requirements for being a parent?
Oh, wait, sorry. Is that me again? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's an interesting question. I mean,
well, I can talk about the technical requirements, and then Martha, maybe you can bring in more the emotional requirements.
Yeah, so I definitely have ideas about what I believe is required from the emotional standpoint.
Right. That's great. Well, Initially you need to take our MAP classes. And so that's a 10-week, 30-hour course. And then you need to become licensed. So there's a home study involved. There's a little bit of paperwork involved, but we've gone all online with our paperwork. So it's technically electronic paperwork. And then, then there's the matching process. But I think the most important requirement really is to be prepared for a lifetime commitment. And so that's what we require of all of our parents. So Martha, you want to talk a little bit more about, what it's really like to become a parent to someone that's been in foster care?
Yes, please. So one of the things that I think surprised me the most about becoming a parent to a child who has come through a history of trauma, who's from a hard place, is that the amount of work required is going to, all the heavy lifting is me as a parent. I need to be ready to look at myself. I need to be ready to acknowledge mistakes that I make, because I do make them. And then I need to be ready to explore what's going on. I am really struggling with parenting this child. I wonder why. And then get resources together, whether it's YGB, which has been a really great thing. We got a grant at the end of last year to provide family therapy. So I get to sit with parents and we talk about triggers. We talk about what are the things that this behavior, because there are lots and lots of really challenging behaviors. These are children who have not necessarily been taught about love and about what it means to live just with a group of 2-4 people. It's a huge adjustment that we're asking them to make. It's really big, and sometimes I think people are afraid and they ask too much of the children. And what they really need to do is ask a lot of themselves, which we're asking a lot of our parents. YGB asks a lot of our parents, but we also really, really give a lot in return. I'm open 24 hours, 7 days a week, holidays included. So if it's hard, call, right? That's the way we see it.
Great. We've got another question. How much does it cost to adopt? Is there a cost associated?
It costs $0 to adopt from foster care. It's a common misnomer that, folks are more knowledgeable about what you would consider traditional adoption, which tends to be an exorbitant cost attached to it. But with foster care, there are no costs associated with adopting from foster care.
Great. And we have one more question from Kevin in Long Island, who's recently adopted from foster care, but not from YGB. And he's curious where he can find some support, because as we've all talked about, it can be tough.
So I have a lot of questions for Kevin, I guess, but I think that finding where, so you're on Long Island. So I think there are, let me think, there's Agape. There is, Long Island has a bunch of resources. Maybe the best thing to do would be to get Kevin's information so that we can have a direct conversation with him to figure out what would be helpful.
Great. I think the important message is there's lots of resources where you are. Absolutely.
Yes.
Great. So thank you for everyone who submitted your questions. If we didn't get to it, please just leave an email. We'll get back to you. And I want to thank everyone for sharing those stories. Jennifer?
All right. Yes. And I see that we just had a donation from Robin in Brooklyn for $1,000. So thank you, Robin.
Shout out, Robin.
Yes. So again, thank you to our amazing panel. We couldn't do this without you. So glad you are part of our YGB family. Thank you, Amber, for moderating. And I also want to thank the audience for taking the time to listen. We hope you've gained a better understanding of the importance of finding a permanent families and why it's so critical that families have a wonderful support network to thrive. So While I encourage everyone to text or click to donate as I'm speaking, I'll let you know exactly how your money will be used. And just to remind you, you can donate via text. It's 718-865-2425. And here are a few ways your donation can help. $50 will support workshop to support parents and kids being matched. $100 will support emergency stipend for older kids waiting to be connected to a family. $500 will support a home study to certify an adoptive family, and all the way up to $5,000 where everything needed to certify a parent. But any amount is appreciated rather, whether it's $1, $10, any bit helps us in the effort to execute our mission of finding permanent homes for older kids in foster care. We also have intro sessions. So if you don't want to dive directly into the MAP classes, which can be intimidating, you can join our intro sessions. You can find information about that on our website at yougottabelieve.org. And if you just click on the top where it says parent classes and support, then you can find more information about that. There are also other ways that you can contribute outside of donating. You can join our monthly giving club. And also Amazon. Everyone orders from Amazon, right? I know I do. You can designate YGB as a recipient of your donations, and we will get a percentage of all the purchases that you make. You can sign up for our newsletter and stay abreast of all the work that our amazing team is doing. You can also ask your company if they provide a corporate match. You'll be surprised how many companies do that and provide support through us that way. So with that, we want to thank you again for joining us for today's panel and for supporting YGB's efforts. We're so happy to each and every one of the members of our YGB family. Together, we really do important work, connecting kids waiting in foster care to loving families. We can't do it without you, and we appreciate all of you. Good night.